Well, joining me now is John Edmeston, who is Global Chief Financial Officer and Deputy CEO of Cartrack. Talk about why the company is moving into the US. Hi, John.
Hello,
good to have you in the studio again. Perhaps before we talk about the move to the US, just remind us what Cartrack is, its scale, its reach, so we're reminded what we're talking about.
Cartrack's a telematics company basically grew up with stolen vehicle tracking and recovery as its objective, but we've over the last 6 or so years have expanded into fleet management, which really from a global perspective is a real burgeoning market. Extremely important in both insurance industry as well as the commercial fleets. So there's a lot of activity happening globally on that, in that field, and we want to make sure we share on that in our global expansions.
Where would you say you are in the global league at the moment?
Global league, I think we probably up there in the top 5 or 10 players, but we've got a lot of way to go. We've been in various countries over a number of years. The longest time periods have been those countries in Africa. But we're in Europe, and we've well established there over a good few years, got good base in Europe. And Asia is our newest expansion area, where we operate from a number of countries, from Singapore as the hub. And they're still fledgling companies, but a lot of growth potential that we're seeing there.
Yeah. So the US, what sort of market is it, and why now are you going there?
Well, I think the US is really an interesting market, clearly, for many people. And we do understand it takes a lot to get into the US. We understand it's a different market, and there's a lot for us to learn. So it's still in the early stages for us. We're still preparing the ground, but we felt we ought to release notification of our intentions.
Because your announcement today simply said that you were intending to do it. There was no other detail. Very
simple, and as I say, it is still in the early stages. So
give us an idea of how you do this. I mean, you go and look around, find an office. How do you start?
Yes. Well, you do your research on the desktop research, and we've opened an office in Orlando. There are a lot of benefits to be derived out of Orlando in terms of incentives. So economically, it appears to be a very good state to operate from within. Tax incentives, incentives for employment and infrastructure build. So that's very attractive to a new entrant. It's a good place to start. There's a high level of economic activity. So the US, is a huge market, of course, for most things. And it's quite an active market in telematics. It's been in that kind of market for many years, but we still perceive there's good market to be gained. The penetration isn't high yet in the small, medium type entities.
And literally, what is it that you're selling? When someone buys into your product, what do they get?
Right. Well, for the market in the States, although they have stolen vehicles and so on, and I think LoJack looks after that aspect very well over the many years now. So the real target market has to be in fleet management. And the activity really is on the one hand in insurance for risk management by insurers, and that's a burgeoning market in most continents at the moment. And the other side of the coin is the fleets, where the organizations are looking for productivity, efficiency enhancements, cost reduction, all with the objective, of course, of just managing the whole infrastructure better, as well as improving their profitability.
It's an area also where I presume the technology changes all the time. If you can get ahead with that, with cheaper, more effective technology. Right. Are you able to offer the US market something in that sense that they haven't got yet?
Yes. Well, we've compared our product to what we have seen in the States. We believe we've got equivalent, and in some areas, some more. We can't match up necessarily with the very high-end big fleet products that are extremely integrated into the vehicle, but that's not really our primary objective. What we found is that as we enter into any new country, there are learning experiences to be had, and each one of those actually strengthens you as an organization to build your product range, your technology base, and provides you with more to offer in all areas of the world. So it's a great opportunity for learning as well as to offer what we as South Africans, and I think in South Africa we actually in many ways are pioneers of a lot of this type of
Partly,
technology.
I would think, because we're so good at stealing cars. So
well, that was the real source of the expertise originally, and of course we've built on it from that.
How do you project now? You've got to have some idea of where you want to be in a year or two, how much money you've got to spend to get in there, and when you expect to start making money, and how would you measure progress?
Right. Well, fortunately, we are a very cash-generative organization. So we do have, we build our cash. However, we also go into countries. We don't go in with a great flash and splash. We start in a very contained, controlled type environment, because there's a lot of learning to be done. So typically, we start in a conservative fashion and we build from there. Different countries have different kind of profiles, but typically we see a 3-odd year up to break-even type cycle, depending on the traction in the particular country. And I guess we would see the States would be in a similar type of mold, albeit maybe a more expensive country to enter into and invest in, rather than Asia, for example, where we can do it more economically.
Yeah. Fascinating story. That's John Edmeston, Global CFO and Deputy CEO of Cartrack.